Welcome to a new update. Today we're going to talk about Bitcoin and Bitcoin only. It is an interesting time, I would say. It's an interesting time where Bitcoin is currently moving, and it has been moving even heavier yesterday, as we have seen and anticipated a case where Bitcoin has been grinding up and started to continue grinding up, after which something unethical probably has occurred, which is that within the Cointelegraph community or within the Cointelegraph company, we've witnessed a case where they started to tweet about the BlackRock ETF to be approved, which is fake news. But the result is that it caused the markets to move by approximately 35 billion, and approximately 100 million in positions were liquidated, which is of course super sad. But the volatility is increasing, and if we look at the entire market overview, I think the trend is starting to go up. So that is what we're going to discuss in this update. But before we continue, I'm back with my updates. I've been silent for 2 weeks. Why was that? Well, I've been traveling to Dubai for an event over there. I've been speaking at one in which I've been sharing some important notes. The second week was due to Bitcoin Amsterdam and some personal stuff as well. But Bitcoin Amsterdam, I've been on stage there too. Had a lot of meetings, and a lot of new things are happening in the markets and also with me personally, which means that I'm currently working on trading course. We've got the Crypto 101 course, which is more than 7 hours of content which you can use to navigate yourself through the markets or get a kickstart in your journey, which is now in a discount. Normal price is 349 euros for this one, but we can give it to you in October for 249, 100 euros discount. So as we are at the current new start of the bull cycle, it is a good moment for you to start as well. On top of that, I'm currently making the trade course, which is giving you, which is me providing to you all the strategies that I use. Additionally of that, as I've also been mentioning with my presentations and my panels, I'm going to start my own consultancy. The consultancy will be focused on assistance and asset management, which means that if you have a portfolio in crypto, or you want to get started in crypto, or you have one and want to rebalance, or you want to just have a chat with me for an hour, make sure to send an email. You can do that in the description beneath. We're starting on November 1st. We've got a database and a model that works, and we're going to implement that for all the clients to be able to invest into crypto with a base portfolio, including some additional assets that you can choose for yourself. You can choose the segments you want to invest in. We trade it for you, we assist it for you. And I think with the model that we use, we can skew the risk, but still have a significant upside, so you're able to navigate yourself through the markets and make the most out of it. Finally, this video is sponsored by Bybit. Until the end of the year, we've got a lucky draw challenge. If you sign up through my affiliate, it is the exchange that I'm using for my trades, with the best fees, the best volume, the best liquidity, even on those shit coins that are currently having the funding rates or the funding rate game. But you can win an Apple Watch, you can win an iPhone 15 Pro, you can win an iPad Pro if you trade on there. So make sure to do it. I'm also going to host some events alongside Bybit, so I'm going to do that for my affiliates only. Lots of introduction. Now, when we're looking at the markets, this has happened today. Actually, yesterday. I've been making this video last night. Initially, we got a movement from Bitcoin, which I mentioned prior on my X account, which was we broke from 27k to approximately 27.2, and we broke through the crucial 27k level. I mentioned that it was very likely to see it occur, and there were several arguments for that actual reasoning. The first one is the fact that after the markets closed on Friday, we got the confirmation that the SEC is not going to appeal in the Grayscale case. Because of that, the odds of having an ETF have increased, and because of that, the odds of Grayscale transforming towards an ETF have increased too. We also know that the SEC is working alongside the companies to make an appropriate proposal or filing to make sure that the ETF is having everything required to be an actual asset. So that is great. Then we had that over the weekend, so that is technically not priced in. Usually that will start to kick in when the Monday open starts to happen in the US. Additionally, what we also saw, what I've been bringing up quite substantially in the previous months, is that Bitcoin moves a lot like gold, and gold has been seeing a U-turn or a V-shaped recovery like we've not seen many times before, in which it rallied on Friday by approximately 3 to 4%, and it's currently above $1,900. So Bitcoin most likely has to pace up to actually get the momentum going. That happened, and then today, most likely someone within the Cointelegraph company has made has done its advantage with tweeting this. There are several scenarios, and probably after I've been making this video we've seen the actual scenario taking into account, but if there is smoke there's fire, that's one scenario. So if there is a case that the SEC is likely going to approve this, maybe some rumors are going around and it's just out there too fast. The second one is that we have a case of just a troll or someone making a trade out of it, making money, getting some money for it. Probably also an inside job. That could be done too. The third one is it's got hacked. So those are the three. If you think about it and you have this into your mind, knowing the fact that we most likely are going to get an ETF anyway, the transition in the sentiment took place yesterday as well. At first we started to rally up, we made the high, and then we came all the way back down again to just grind up towards 28.5k afterwards again. And the entire wick you should just erase out of the entire construction if it is an inside job or a hack, because then the people were just tricking the markets once again. Alright, if there is smoke and there is fire, there is a very likely case that the markets are going to trend upwards. If it is one of the last two ones, it is very likely that we're just going to consolidate and the trend has started to go upward. So if you think about all these scenarios, there's no argument to say, hey, now we need to go to 22k or now we need to go to 20k. No, it's an actual argument that we start the upside momentum and that dips are still for buying at this point. If you think about it, we started at 26.8. We ended off the day at 28.5k-ish, and that is an upwards trend of approximately 5 to 6% on a single day, despite the fact that we had some fake news. So that is actually technically bullish if you think about it, and we are in a bullish period. And I don't believe that we're going to have a copycat of 2019. I think we've got a copycat of 2015, which means that I think that the odds of rallying towards 35 to 40k are significantly higher. So if we look at the markets for Bitcoin on the higher time frames, what we see here is a case of reclaiming the 200-week EMA. I've seen some articles coming out that the markets have been pushed back by Alameda Research and that the markets had to go up higher during this bull cycle. So most likely the bull has not gone to where it should be. Most likely the bear has gone deeper than where it should be. So the valuation of Bitcoin in this range was heavily undervalued. And at this point is still heavily undervalued if you think about the entire stock to flow model, but also hash rate and where it should be at this point. Because if we had a higher rally here towards 100k to 150k, the correction from 100 to 150 would have landed around 30k and we would have been higher at this point already. So I think we're still lagging behind significantly, which means that I believe that we're going to have the upwards trend, which I think has been activating already by the fact that we have reclaimed the 200-week EMA and are consistently holding up to it. So that's the bullish thesis at this point. I think that we're looking at a case of a bearish or a bullish breakout. If you look at the bear argument, we are currently seeing a rejection here at 28.8k to 29k, which can also reverse, and then we're dropping back beneath here. But at this point, although we've got this fake news coming out, we are just eagerly grinding up until we reach 31k, and then we're going to have a massive breakout, which is pretty much comparable to the price action we've been witnessing here in 2016, in which this construction started to break out significantly too, which was a pre-halving rally taking place here. I'm not sure whether it's going to be that close to the halving. The closing is currently projected to be at the end of March, beginning of April. I think that we're going to have it like a few months prior. But if we have a breakout out of a construction like we have seen in 2015, and this took place for 7 months, and if we face reality, we are having this for approximately 8 months too. So if we break up here, I think that we're going most likely towards 45 to 50k on the markets at this point. So based on the higher time frames, I think that we are, especially since right now Bitcoin is reclaiming all the levels too, I think we are going to continue the upwards momentum at this point. Bitcoin against USDT on the lower time frames. As I mentioned before, I think you should be looking at taking the buy the dip approach, which means we've got this entire rally taking place here, which means that the previous rejection area is this block around 28.6. This is a fairly important pivot, because if we get back into this entire range at this stage, I think it's very likely that we are breaking back into the upper range, which technically speaking, I think that if we break through it, which I'm not expecting in one go to take place, but if we break through it, we are going to 30.2 and 31.3 in a relatively fast manner. Because just like we have been seeing here, we break through this high and then we start to expand. So at this point, all the liquidity up here has already been taken. So there's not much preventing us from making that breakout. And I think that, as you can see, we are just facing the resistance at 28.6k anyway. So if we have some period of consolidation, as right now, the markets are looking a little bit overheated, but if we have some consolidation taking place around this high, you can identify your entry points and make sure that even though we've had this big expansion, which technically just took a day, we are going to consolidate a little bit more, and then we have that actual breakout. So in that regard, I think the conclusion is quite clear. The upwards trend is here. Now, what are the scenarios that I'll be looking at in terms of potential entry points? If you look at potential entry points, you need to identify where the potential resistance lies. And in this case, you can technically say, hey, these lows and this previous high, those are the potential points where you're looking at a potential resistance, right? This pivot here. In that aspect, given that we are seeing an overheated candle chart here, especially on the 2 hour, and I think it's also the same on the 4 hour. On a daily, it is not like that, but at least on a daily, we can show that we are making an uptrend here. So at least as long as we stay above 26.5, I think you just fairly continue to do the buy the dip approach. What are the scenarios? Well, first of all, 26.5 I marked as an interesting point for longs, which we filled. The second level that I find is important for longs, I think you can have multiple scenarios. First, if we have a dip towards 27.3, that is the level where you want to get it. If we're going to have a rally towards 28.7 and then we start to fall, I think we need to have a shallow correction towards 27.7 and then we are done. So I'm unclear on the actual structure at this point. I'm just identifying potential entry points, and based on the fact that I identify them, I'll be scaling into those depending on the structure of the markets, because I believe that honestly, if we look at the scenarios, and if I'm going to give them odds at this point, I think this scenario where we sweep 28.7 and then fall back to 27.8 has like 60 to 70% chances of succeeding. And this lower scenario, which is a relatively deep correction, has approximately 20 to 30% of succeeding. So if this plays out, I'll be buying in big here at 27.7. My personal trade is currently already out, which I took at 26.5. If we get to 27.3, I'll still be adding towards my trade. And personally, I'm expecting to see that we hold above 26.5. And then when we break through this level, we expand. Now, when we're looking at altcoins, I think this is not going to happen in one go, to my understanding. Which means that if we consolidate with Bitcoin, I think that's going to be the moment where altcoins are going to bounce back. Because right now you can see that the weakness is technically there when it comes to the altcoins. That is also because people are switching between altcoins to Bitcoin. So we switch that back if the markets are going to consolidate. That is also going to be a trigger where you will see the new funding game of altcoins starting to take place. I hope you have been enjoying this update. I'll be back on Thursday and I'll be looking at some macroeconomic events. Make sure to subscribe, make sure to check out the course, and I'll be back soon. Ciao!